And now the place that you think you're going to be sharing this is at the new company that you're at to the salespeople primarily, and then eventually maybe to the technicians, and then also maybe to the telephone folks, CSRs.
Yeah, this may be part of it. I may take some stuff from here in a different one that I have,
Okay.
but this is one that I just kind of gave an overview of it, right?
Okay. Okay.
So what
Well,
I did was I started with the house
this
of
is
a project that I've done.
okay.
And I told them, hey, a little bit of background of this house is one that these people inherited from this lady inherited this house, her and her husband, from her in-laws, from his parents, but they were ready to move and leave the house because they were having um, moisture issues, extreme moisture issues. Like their sheets would feel wet. In their closets, they would have some moisture, things like that on their clothes. They'd have growth.
Oh, wow.
Um, so they'd have to
They were
constantly
at a high
take,
level of pain and
yeah,
frustration.
yep. So they were just ready to sell this house, get rid of it. Um, until we offered the comfort consult. Until I offered it. So, well, the technician did, and I kind of went in and talked to him about it and scheduled it and set it up. So then what I was sharing and showing with them and what I would share with people is kind of the process, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with the process, just kind of a little bit of a background. Um, oh, well, that's the next slide. But with this here, right, are there comfort problems to solve? So we start by asking a set of questions that allow us to, or allow the homeowner, the client to score if there's comfort problems to solve. And if they want to, if there's not, they want to go ahead and choose, they can go with a free quote, which again, what does most of the industry do? We offer a free quote. However, we also have to offer a different path, especially for those that have comfort issues. So, and that's kind of dependent on the score from the 4 questions that they have. With that, if we do a comfort consult, if the client chooses to do a comfort consult, then what we do is we go in and we do some different things that we'll talk about, but we try to figure out is HVAC likely to solve the problem or not, and then we have an extensive plan if we need to, if it's not. But what we found is that once we get through that, HVAC can solve quite a few problems, the right HVAC systems. So this is where I then go and I use this spot here. I think Brearley put this together, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, so I really like this one. And then this is where I give a little bit of background of the home performance side, right? Is going full home performance bonehead, going way too far, less than 1% of the jobs that you're going to ever see out there. It's like finding a needle in a haystack, right? And you made the comment too, Ted, of 1 in 1,000.
Yeah, 1 in
Great.
1,000 are going to be a good fit. Nate built a really wonderful Venn diagram, you know, budget, pain, opportunity, and where they intersect is incredibly small.
Yeah. And like I said, this here just kind of gives them I had some snippets from it going, look, if you talk to a bunch of HVAC contractors and from the 80s or 90s and you mention anything about home performance, you just see their skin crawl. They look at you and they want to call you a fucking idiot. Get out of here. What are you talking about? You're stupid for even thinking about this. And that's going full home performance bonehead.
Right. The home performance bonehead problem is there's either been slam the box or turn it into a total science project. And
Exactly.
neither of those serves the client well. And so both of them leads to bad experience for the HVAC contractor. And if we're able to give people choices more effectively, and less coercively, then they end up owning their decision because we're not leading them.
Yep. And then the other side of it, I said, hey, look, so you got this side over here with home performance, and over here you have your traditional HVAC contractors that are just going in and throwing whatever they want, and oftentimes not the right thing, right? For a home, and they're just on total opposite spectrums. So there's
Did
a
you get
creative bridge.
discussion on this slide?
Yeah, yep, a little bit.
Okay.
Yep, and then talked about, hey, look, this is a creative bridge. This is kind of taking the two and going, what's good out of this, what's good out of this, and how do we build it together, right? And that's what HVAC 2.0 is. So, and then I start with this slide going, hey, replacing your HVAC system could be up to a 15-year decision. What we try to do is help clients understand their options and then be the guide to help them make the best choice for them. And I really hit on guide here, right? Is we're not here to play the hero. We're not here to force them to do something. We're not here to coerce them into anything. It's where we're having an adult to adult conversation to help guide them through to make the best decision for them. And then this is when I go into free quote. What is a free quote? Well, typically it's a like for like replacement. It's usually a good, better, best scenario on that like for like replacement. And then there's some issues that could cause, there's some things that could worsen issues within a home, especially if we haven't responsibly avoided responsibility by asking the set of questions up front. And what is that? Well, going from a PSC to an ECM. What happens when you go from a PSC to an ECM? And then I had the sales manager and other people come back and tell me what they thought would happen if you went from a PSC to an ECM.
Oh my gosh, free quote. Now that it's about to roll out is going to make this so much better for people, because it takes care of these questions and documents the answers. And so people don't have, it's just, it's exciting.
Yep. And so the other thing that I go is could be ductwork design issues. We don't know. How do we figure that out? Or how to at least have a little bit of knowledge before we replace the system on a like for like quote or a free quote? We offer checking static pressure or duct pressure. So that's where I went into that, and then ask them some questions about duct pressure.
What were their thoughts on offering to measure duct pressure at every sales call?
They didn't seem opposed to it at all, but the sales manager was looking at the call by call manager, sales manager, and going, and paid to do it. So,
yeah, well, so
because he's a huge fan of not giving things away for free either.
That's it's got to be something that the homeowner finds value in.
Yep, exactly.
Or else they can own the responsibility. It's a no free lunch situation.
Yep. The other thing is home issues, right? So going from a PSC to going from on a like for like replacement, a piece of equipment from what they had before, especially depending on the age of the system, to what the new system is that a lot of people think that their new system's going to take care of whatever existing issues they have in their home. How often does that happen? Right? And what happens if it doesn't?
Magical thinking.
So that's where I start asking them, and then they start telling me. So this is where, again, I just little bullet points to ask and make them respond. And then also something that we've really started diving into and looking into is the sensible heat ratio of the new systems. To reach these SEER2 ratings, guess what's happening to the sensible heat ratios? First of all, do we know what the sensible heat ratio is? So then, you get in that conversation. So that takes a little bit of time. And then we explain a little bit of that. And then what happens on a free quote, or what are the free quotes typically look like? Well, there's 70 to 80% of turnovers. and they're on system. The 78, 80% of the free quotes are systems that have completely failed.
Urgent,
So people
emergency, emergency. We got to change this system. What do we do? And
more reactive versus proactive.
Giving them an opportunity to slow down a little bit.
And that's what I brought up too, is going. So obviously those people don't, they're in a hurry to get something replaced because it's usually in the middle of winter or summer, right? But we have to educate them enough in the process that slows them down like a speed bump, so they understand that there's areas that there's maybe concerns, or we at least have to ask questions and document. So what do we do on a free quote in the HVAC 2.0 process? Well, we have a questionnaire, and I put short questionnaire. We have lifestyle open-ended questions, right? So what does that mean? Try to ask questions that will help us determine what's going on so we can document, or also bring out pain and recommend the comfort consult if need be.
Or at least further confirm that the decision not to get a comfort consult is the responsibility of the homeowner.
Exactly. Yep. And I hit on it, hey, we're here as an adult. We're having a conversation with an adult. It has to be the adult to adult conversation that we have with these people. And we can't look at it any different way. We can't be the parent telling the child exactly what they need to do. We have to have an adult to adult conversation. We have to be in that mindset. But also on our free quote process with HVAC 2.0, we have the data entry, the indoor, the outdoor, the electrical, all the information that we need that goes to a PDF that then can be shot to your internal team. We also offer, as I mentioned earlier, static pressure, paid. Again, it has to be a paid to check that duct pressure. And then we have all of our equipment measurements as well. And then, of course, the magic of all of it is the report, right? And in the report, we have our equipment options and our installation options, which look like this. This right here.
I love this thing so much. I was talking to somebody over the weekend that got new equipment, and they're like, we had no idea how to differentiate equipment. All they could tell us is SEER ratings. And
Yep.
What does that mean to us? I'm like, oh, that's a bummer, because did they ask you if you had any problems with your house? No, they didn't ask that. Okay, well, then it's pretty hard to understand if you have problems to solve if you don't ask the problems, and it's pretty hard to understand the value of better equipment.
Yep. So I was like, what are your eyes automatically go to when you see this? That's what I ask. And
comfort capabilities is what mine goes to. It goes right to the load matching frowny face. I mean, exactly. If they didn't have the comfort capabilities in there, my eye would go straight to price. And I think that's what happens to most people, is it goes straight to price. But with this, like
all of them said this right here. No, all of them said the smiley faces.
Oh, did they? Oh, good. Okay. So they saw this and they loved it.
Yeah. Yep. So
I mean, some people don't have load matching problems. All right, you can buy the cheap stuff, or you're going to be there 2 years.
Some people are doing something similar, and I'll share that with you later when we're done. But that's where I'm like, hey, this is where you can differentiate your pieces of equipment in a manner that makes sense. And they're like, yeah, like when you go to the doctor and they have their smiley faces or frowny faces or whatever. And I'm like, exactly. And that's all we're doing. We're just trying to show them the differences of what this stuff actually does in a matter that makes sense to them. And then here's your install options. We let you pick your install too. Now, I'm a huge fan of, here's what's included. This is automatically included in any of my options that you choose above, right? Or the page before. And then if someone wants to downgrade, then we can always offer that downgrade. But if I say, hey, it's going to be this much to downgrade with these faces here, what do you think people are most likely going to say?
Yeah, that's pretty nice. It's sort of a, if you really want cheap, I'll do it. But I'm at some point I got to put my foot down and say, you're going to have to very explicitly instruct me to do it this way.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. So showed them that. They love that. So then we go into the next one. And I'm like, okay, great. That's our free quote. Now, what do we do during a comfort consult, right? What's a comfort consult? Well, during a comfort consult, just a breakdown of each kind of section is a little bit of building science education that we involve the client in. We keep them with us the whole time. We're going to write down all their goals. We're going to go through an in-depth conversation with that. And then what we're going to do is inspect the HVAC system. We are going to check static pressure. That is part of this paid comfort consult visit. And then we're also going to do blower door leakage tests of the home. And by the way, and actually, I think I stopped it here today when I went through it. I was like, once we start doing all this with our comfort console, we are doing as close as we can accurate load calculation in the home of what's needed. Does anybody know how to do a proper load calculation or what that means? Manual J, but even those are still, aren't those oversized? Is what the sales manager was saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
good.
They are
at least
oversized.
He's got that part.
So in his process, which I absolutely love, so he's really brilliant guy. He says that his sizing matchups, depending on the size of the AC, he just doubles that, and that's your heating load.
Okay.
So if you're putting in a 2-ton, 48,000 BTUs is your heating load.
Interesting.
So that's kind of what he kind of coaches on, which is
he's going to really
better
like
than
this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep.
That
We get along great, so I think it's awesome.
Oh, that's great. It's nice. It sounds like you got a lot of support from management.
Yeah. Yep. So
That's
far.
great.
So, and I'm like, well, no, the only way that you can really do it is
Get
know
out
your
there and do it.
infiltration, your exfiltration, know the blower door leakage. It's the only way you can figure out the sizing that a system is needed for a home, and energy use. And you got to know what to do with that energy use to make that work. He actually knows Phil. He knew Phil Jeffers, or knew of Phil Jeffers. I think he attended some of his trainings, and he'd say, yeah, he'd sit up in front of the room and say he was a hippie and drink his Heineken while he's, nerding out. So, so I was like, yeah, that's the only way that you can figure out the size. Cause he was asking me what load software I use. And I'm like, yeah, unfortunately, I don't like saying it, but it's the best that's out there. And the only reason I'll continue using it is a little bit because of Phil, but it's EDS. And he's like, Phil who? And I told him, it's like, I know him. I knew of him. He's like, so. Then I was like, also with the Comfort Console, not only are we clarifying the goals, but we're then going to prioritize their goals. We'd love to take care of everything, right? But again, we're going to have that conversation where they get to pick and choose what they want to do. And we're going to try to fit it within their budget. And at this point, with all the rapport and the bonding and everything that we've had, and we've felt their pain and we start talking about it, diving into it, the budget part of the submarine that we go through, we've closed all the other doors. We get to the budget. A lot of times we get clients that understand that we're there to help, and they will tell us their budget as long as you follow the process. And then, of course, what the next steps look like. Well, what's that mean? Well, typically we'll build a report. I'm a huge proponent of a 2-call close, where I get back in front of the client after I've sent that report. I've given them ample time to do the research that they have. They get better questions. They actually answer my questions better when I'm back with them. And once I'm in the house that second time, it's a done deal. We're doing something. They're just narrowing it down to what they want to do. So, Comfort Consult, again, breaking it down a little bit, in-depth questionnaire, as we kind of talked about. Measurements, we do check static leakage with our blower door and zonal pressures. Does anybody know what zonal pressures are or what that means? We go into that. We talk a little bit about that after I asked them, because all of them were like, no, what's that?
Okay, so they don't have BPI or any of that stuff. So we're talking a little bit foreign language. Were they comfortable having you talk outside of their expertise?
Yeah, because they were curious about it, because they're like, what's that? and I kind of told them, the big thing we want to know is how much communication each area has without going full home performance bonehead. We just want to get a baseline of how connected or how much communication there is from inside to outside, or areas of this home versus, or this space of the home versus this other space. And if we see areas that are greater than we would like them to be, then we educate the client that, hey, this room may not be comfortable with just the HVAC system. They may need supplemental of some sort. And then that's when the sales manager is like, yeah, like a ductless. He's a huge ductless fan.
Oh boy.
So I'm like,
Well,
sure.
we'll have to be patient.
Yeah. I'm like, sure, it could be. It could
Mhm.
be, if they don't want to spend the money to whatever it may be to correct that concern or that issue that we,
Yeah, Band-Aid. Those are good
yeah,
Band-Aids.
yeah. So you could always throw a ductless in those situations if you want. And then, of course, in-depth analysis and consult report, budget odds of success and equipment installation options, things like that. So again, what we're doing during a comfort consult is this here. What we're doing is figuring out the client's goals, their needs, their wants. So figure out their goals, prioritize their goals, figure out what the house needs, and of course, figure out the budget to see what we can do to help them.
And here's that Venn that when it goes
Mm-hmm.
to comprehensive planning process, that intersection is tiny relative to housing stock.
Yeah. And I didn't even dive into the comprehensive planning process because it's so minimal.
Right.
I touched on it earlier and just left it at that. I did at the beginning too, talked about during that one slide where it was talking about the home performance side. I said, you and Nate had a lot of that background.
Okay.
That's actually that's how this process is. That's where it came
It's
about. That's
built
where it was
on.
born. It was built from going all the way to the end and working back. We get to the comfort console and we're like, damn it, that's still only 20 to 30% of the HVAC industry. How can we help more? When the only thing from there is the free quote.
Yeah,
part,
that's
which
right.
is what we're working on now.
We didn't know what the natural breakout of comfort consult to free quote was going to be until you guys started running them.
Yeah. Yep. And that's what I kind of brought up, talked to him.
70% of all visits are likely to be free quotes if the comfort quiz is performed properly without coercion. So that's a lot of people getting free quotes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I said, here's just a quick, and I ran through this very quickly, so I didn't spend a lot of time on it. I'm like, this is just a snippet of what a comfort consult looks like. Some of those touch points that we talked about earlier. This is the beginning of the report with the diagram, because again, we're going to talk about it, have that adult to adult conversation with people. Here's their goals. This is one client in particular. Then we have their leakage, and then what rooms leak the most.
So this is the people with wet sheets. Just to be clear to anybody who might be looking at this later, the people.
This was a different house.
Oh, go back a slide. That one?
Yeah, all this is from a different report. This is my most recent report that I actually sold for another company.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That I still closed because I want to take care of the client, right? This is one I helped with Ronnie.
Gotcha.
I gave to Ronnie, let him have, but I had it all. So, but yeah, this is their house here. This is the most recent one. Areas that leak, again, with the zonals, the quick zonal. And then I did bring up, hey, the big thing that I like to bring up here is the energy use that you see where they're currently at on the scale. What's the number one thing that we do as HVAC contractors when we go in and we replace a system that's greater than 10 years old? What's the number one thing that our sales guys, or that all sales guys, talk about? They're like, oh, energy savings. Yeah. Okay, great. You see where they're at on this scale right here? You really think that they're going to save hundreds and thousands of dollars a year?
Yeah, they're already not
on their
using
system replacement.
They already have pretty good energy use. They're in the green.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, yeah, I guess we get that. Yeah, okay, great. And then I said, look at the sizing. This is what they currently have. This is what they need. What would you have done if you went into a sales call? And this is what I asked them. What would you have done if you went into a sales call and they had a 5-ton, 120,000 BT furnace? What would a sales guy have done? well, we would just put a 5-ton, 120K in it. And then the sales manager is like, not me. That's where that disconnect of your technical background and your understanding versus what the layman HVAC salesperson is going to do.
Yeah, and for a free quote, well, this is where likely load range in the free quote report is going to really sing, because
I love it.
It'll help both that guy who says, oh, this feels like the wrong size, but you aren't letting me run a blower door, so the best I can do is give you load range.
Yes, I'm excited for that when it comes through.
Oh yeah.
So, and we talk about project odds of success real quick. We just skim over it, and then, you know, budget odds of success. They're like, well, why, you know, that for that much money, it should be higher. No, nope. There's still other things going on in the house, how they operate it. You can't do that. So this is where we tell people that, you know, depending on what's going on and how they react in the home, that we can't give them 100% odds of success. You can never.
You want to give them
odds of
reasonable.
success.
I mean, if you want to give them 100% odds of success, you're going to have to tell them the budget's $150,000, and you know,
Yeah.
for that they might as well move.
Yep, exactly. So, and then I just re-hit again on this portion, right? So I took this from Nate's book and just said, so what do we offer or try to offer as much as we can with a comfort consult? The 6 functions of HVAC.
Okay,
So
did you send them the 6 functions video and the 70-second video?
Yep, I did this evening. I'll share that email with you here in a bit.
Okay.
Just so you can see exactly what I sent. So just hit this real quick and said, hey, you know, load matching, getting the right size or as close to the right size as possible, especially inverter, multi-stage equipment, variable speed equipment. Obviously, we want filtration on it. And then I kind of talked about a badass HVAC. Obviously, we're still going to recommend some sort of potential dehumidification or ventilation or ventilating dehumidifiers as a just in case, right? Mainly with the free quote. But depending on what's needed here, we can maybe recommend that a client just gets their own dehumidifiers. Because again, I'm not here to force anybody to do anything they don't want to do. Then we talk about fresh air, mixing, moving air around in the home, and then of course humidification if needed. So how do we know which one to set up? Right? How do we know when to set up a free quote? How do we know when to set up a comfort console? Well, we ask questions. And on those questions, we put them on a scale of 1 to 10.
I like what you've done here.
So just took this and said, here's kind of your ranges, right? On the pain scale, if it's mild or if it's more severe. So now we ask the questions based off of the scale between 0 and 10 or 1 to 10, with 1 or 0 being no problem, 10 being a big problem. And then I went through the questions, like part of your house that's uncomfortable or sticky. And we give little examples, right? However, what we do on here is once we start having that conversation, once they tell us that there's an area that's uncomfortable, that's what we want to focus on. So if I say, hey, you know, is there a part of your house that's uncomfortable or sticky in the summer? And they tell me, oh yeah, the master suite's really uncomfortable. It's really warm. Oh, okay. Well, tell me more.
Drill down, drill down, drill down.
Exactly. So you find the pain by the question, and then you start drilling in on that question. It's not meant to just be, you know, overall, right? You're trying to figure out the pain of it on those questions. So these are here to help you. And on a scale of 1 to 10, where would you put it? Hey, that master bedroom's uncomfortable. You said this. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 not being a problem, 10 being a big problem, where would you kind of place it on that scale? And you let the client, the homeowner, answer however they want to answer. And then you take notes. Same thing with the winter months, you know, parts of your house that are uncomfortable or dry in the winter. And again, some more things here, kind of talk about, drill down on it, and have them grade that on a scale of 1 to 10. Health concerns, asthmas, allergies, things like that. So, you know, may there be any health concerns in the home or with your family? And then dive down on that. And then the fourth question is, are there any moisture issues? right? Mold, mildew in attic or basements, crawl spaces, overflowing gutter, standing water, so on and so forth. And then in the software, it will calculate the total score for us. Now, if you do it in Titan, you got to add it up yourself and then know how to have this conversation. So then this is when I jumped into, hey, the 0 to 11 or 12. Most people do a free quote.
Did you have a conversation with them about integrating this into Titan?
They were asking about it. And I said,
Okay.
yeah, at some point, once we're fully there and we get enough investment wise of where we can then get it, where it makes sense, then that may be something that we do.
Okay. And then did you also talk to them about how you could build it into Titan in the meantime?
I did on the 4 questions. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. So I showed them that after I was done with all of this.
Okay, great.
Well,
They must have been pretty psyched about that.
Yeah. Yep. I say, hey, there's a little excerpt here that in the software that will let the client know about it, little 30-second video, whatever. I was like, now, the only thing to say off of this is that if they do score 8 or greater on any one particular question, there's usually enough pain there that we do want to recommend the comfort consult. Now, if they don't want to do the comfort consult and they still want to do the free quote, that's fine. We don't care. We're not here to push them one way or another. So again, no coercion. We're just having that conversation and we let them choose. We just have it all documented.
And there are a bunch of different moves that Sandler teaches us. And one of the moves is, okay, so you had an 8 here, and typically the software likes to see that be lower than an 8, or it's going to recommend a comfort consult. So is it okay that we can, if we lower that number? So you just
and then
put
if
pressure.
you do it, document it.
Yeah, you put pressure back on them to lower their pain score. That puts them sort of in a dissonance position.
Yeah, and if they say, yeah, sure, move it down to a 7. And
Okay,
then
great.
you could ask, you can even ask further if you want. Okay, perfect. I'm going to put this down to a 7. I'm just going to document that right here. Is there any particular reason why? I mean, I like to know a little bit more. Okay, tell me more. You can just leave it at that, right? And then I talked about, hey, we do send out emails. We do recommend emails being sent out as touch points between the appointment being set to the free quote or to a comfort consult. And what we always try to get out there is not only the duct pressure video, the 90-second duct pressure video that we talked about earlier, but also the 6 functions video of the HVAC system. And then, of course, HVAC 101 chapter. So these are things that we send out to our clients to educate them. Now, can anybody guess why we recommend that they be sent out? So and then I let them kind of answer. And I was like, yeah, what we noticed is that people are then more curious or they don't care. So one way or another, we can find out. It allows us to responsibly avoid responsibility, and people buy better equipment.
People buy better equipment from reading this chapter. And if they don't read this chapter, you know that you don't need to spend a whole lot of time on that person.
Exactly.
Because they don't have they're for whatever reason, they're unlikely to be interested in solving. Maybe they don't have no problems, right?
Yeah. Yep. So this is one that they brought up. They're like, oh, that's the best thing that we've seen so far on all this.
Really?
Just don't be fooled. You have a terrible furnace.
That's awesome.
So that's what I said. I was like, yeah, I love that.
Even more poignant by that guy, that friend of Nate's, who's like, why would anybody buy anything over here on the left? He's like, well, that's the equipment you bought.
Yeah, right.
If that's all you're offered, how about that? Or it's you couldn't differentiate on anything but price.
Yep. So to kind of go back to kind of what Brearley did earlier, and I don't know if he did this or this is when we were all throwing in there kind of what's HVAC 2.0, right? And different, just comparing it to different things. I was like, are there any golfers in here? And then this call by call sales manager was like, yeah, I just went golfing for the first time over the weekend. Man, if I didn't have Jason there with me, I wouldn't have known what to do. I was like, okay, great. So it sounds like, Jason was that experience, that caddy, that one that it was actually able to help you get through your first outing, right? And you had a good experience. And he's like, yeah, yep, okay, great. So that's like 2.0. We're helping guide you. What would have happened if you went out by yourself? I wouldn't have. Okay, great. So HVAC contractors are going out there just doing whatever, right? So that's what we look at here. Look, you're probably going to end up short. You're going to have some issues. You're going to have warranty reserve that you're going to have to take care of, all those things. Now, what would have happened if we sent the home performance guy out there?
Did you have any conversations about how much warranty reserve
I did. I
got
hit it,
sent
but they
on?
didn't. Yes.
Huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
What'd
I
they
did.
say?
I told them that 27% of the calls that I was running was warranty, and I'm not going to run warranty. They have warranty techs for that.
Okay. But are they having similar headaches?
Some I haven't been
You didn't
able to
get
dive
deep into
into
it?
how
Okay.
much. Nope. This week's just been kind of a take in what I can,
Okay.
right?
Well,
So
yeah, but they see that this is a way to avoid those, to significantly reduce those in the future.
yes. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
awesome.
So then I also said, hey, what about any gut fans, right? So this Tanner made this one, and I love this one too.
Uh,
So I'm like, you have your whole home performance bonehead over here that's going out and giving lectures and trying to dive too deep into the science experiment times. That's just, who the fuck's paying for that? And then you have your HVAC contractors over here that's just going out and spraying and praying, kind of what we have on here. Just let's just shoot it up. Let's hope it works. Let's hope I hit something, right? And then we'll worry about the repercussions later. Well, again, HVAC 2.0 is, we want to come in not too heavy, not too light. We want it to be just right. We want to help guide to the right solution at that point. And that's when I told them about TPIS. This is why we say TPIS. What's that? Process is sacred.
Nice.
Right? What gets you there is the process from the beginning to the end. Don't stray from the process. Once you get used to the process, then you can start to make it your own. Prior to then, don't.
Yeah, Dunning-Kruger. Get all the way
Yep.
through the low part.
Absolutely. So get through it, get through it, get through it. How do you get better at something? Well, you constantly repeat it. Once you do that, then you can see how you can start to modify. Again, the Dunning-Kruger. And I said the most dangerous phrase in the language, in any language, right? Is, we've always done it this way. And where has that gotten us?
Right.
And of course, constantly doing the same thing over and over. Definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over, but expecting different results.
So you're having a nice time.
Yeah. We're good.
Awesome. Okay, this is probably where I'm going to end the public clip.
Okay.
But we'll keep recording just so that we can post this to the group.